All right, everyone. Welcome back to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Comeaux from Dallas PD in Texas, 34 years experience in law enforcement. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Wellness is something that is a huge priority for him and his organization. So, welcome to the show, Chief Comeaux. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I obviously have heard of your agency because you have a really solid reputation in the wellness space. So I'm looking forward to you kind of explaining the why, the what, and the how when it comes to, what you guys are doing organizationally. But I want to first start with a little bit of background on you. Who are you? How'd you get started in law enforcement? Tell us a little bit about the last 34 years.
Well, born in Lafayette, Louisiana, raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, left at the age of 18 to go play college baseball in St. Louis, Missouri. Had a junior college, did that for a couple years, then transferred to Southwest Texas, which is Texas State. And after playing there, and it was got injured, I had a Houston police sergeant ask me, "Hey, what are you going to do with your career?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll be a police officer like you." And basically I was blowing him away, just wanted him to get away while I tried to figure out, about this injury that I had. And he gave me an application. I filled the
Mhm.
application out. And then 4 months later, I was in the Houston Police Academy at the age of 21 in 1991.
Wow. So he said, "What are you gonna do?" You're like, "I don't know. Maybe what you do." And he goes, "All right, bet." And he gave you an application. And
He did.
the rest is
And that
history.
worked. That's all I needed. It worked. And I was like, all right, college is over for me right now. I need to make some money. Let me figure this out. All right, being a policeman might not be bad.
Wow. Do you think that your background in athletics translated to this profession?
110%.
Mm.
Um, I believe everything that you do from a team concept is the same thing you do as an officer, working as one to become the very best. Sports translate completely into being an officer. First of all, you have to have dedication. Especially playing college sports, you have to wake up early. You have to work as a team to become one. And it's the same thing as a police department. You all want to protect each other on as athletes. You want to make sure that your team is better, right? And if you
Mhm.
perform and you can bring others along, you can inspire others, you can motivate others. It helps as a team. It's the same thing as a police officer. You work as a team to become one to protect everyone and serve everyone in the city.
I agree. And, I relate a lot of what you guys do to what professional athletes do, even in the context of training. How can we train you as if you are professional tactical athletes because you are? And I think that when we can have that team mentality and this idea of you're as strong as your weakest link, and how can we elevate everyone for the mission and the betterment of the team, then everybody thrives and everyone moves forward. And so I love that you said that because I think that sometimes we forget, because you guys aren't positioned that way, like we don't talk a lot about that. And so if we look at it in that way, then I think we can start to really expand our thought process and say, okay, well, if you are professional tactical athletes, which you are, then what are those things that we can put in place to move the team forward?
And that's all that was said perfectly. And that's one of the reasons why we recruit so heavily from athletes. And
Mm.
look at the women officers that are on the job. A lot of them were cheerleaders. They played volleyball and basketball in high school and then some in college. And it's the same thing with the men's. You have a high population of athletes that are on the police department.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said some of the things of like accountability. Of course, we think about physical fitness, right? Like athletes are going to have more of a background of that physical fitness, injury prevention, things of that nature. But there's other skill sets that they have where, they're able to take accountability when it's something's on them, right? Like you drop the ball and you're like, that's on me, or the resilience, the idea of how can we support each other, even and it's human, right? Not everyone's going to like each other, but how can you support each other for the betterment of the team? So I love that you said that.
To that point right there, not everyone's going to like each other. It's one of the things. We can talk about each other, but we won't let anyone else talk about us. And that's exactly what police officers do.
Yeah, no, I love that. I wanted to ask you because, I said this in your intro. I've obviously heard of you guys from a wellness perspective. I know that it's something that a lot of agencies are modeling after. They're looking at what you guys are doing and they're trying to replicate that. As a leader, what is your why? Why is wellness something that is such a priority for you and your organization?
Look, wellness starts and it takes care of everything in the department. If an officer's coming to work and his mind is right, he's going to do a much better job on the department. He's going to do a much better job in the community. He's going to be much better officer to his fellow officers, right? So it starts with the wellness. And so many times, especially back in 1991 when I started, it was, hey, just swallow it, move on, keep it going. Hey, officers see all kind of things, and you have to give that escape, that out. And with the wellness program, especially when you start offering counseling and let every officer know it's okay to go to counseling. You should go to counseling. Matter of fact, I almost feel like it should be mandatory for everyone to go to counseling because you don't understand what you have to offload oftentimes. And when you just talk to someone else, you start offloading it and it makes the department better. It's better for the community and the officer themselves.
Yeah, I really like this idea of how can we build a foundation, a healthy foundation, and then everything else builds on top of that. But if the foundation is cracked or broken, then we can't continue to grow and to build on top of a broken or a cracked foundation. And so, when it comes to creating a culture of care or wellness, it's like, how can we make that really solid? And then everything else adds on top of that.
I spend a lot of time with our wellness team. I do podcasts with our wellness team, and I let them know that they are the most important part of this police department for us to succeed.
Yeah, I love that. How do you, and I was going to ask this later, but it kind of is popping up for me now. You guys have a really large organization. You have a lot of employees. How do you get the message across about wellness to where everyone not only knows what resources are available, but everyone shares the same mission of wellness first?
Well, it starts with me, and I talk about it every opportunity I get. Anytime I go to a station, I go to different channels, I go to different divisions and sections. It's part of what I talk about. Everyone has to know it, and then I empower our wellness team to make sure that they take every avenue possible to talk about it. You can walk around this department and you'll see flyers from social media, flyers, emails going out about wellness, letting everyone know what we have. We have a wellness group. They sit downstairs in headquarters, and you go in there and you might think you're going into a spa. There's chairs for you to sit in, massage chairs, there's snacks, there's TVs. There's a whole lot of things there for you just to unload.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a huge proponent of reinforcement. And I think that we can put this in like a really, really simple example. I'm guilty of this in my personal life. Like, how many times does my spouse have to tell me that we have plans for dinner on a certain day? He sometimes has to tell me like 5 times for me to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. And so this idea of how can we constantly be talking about these things? How can we constantly be reinforcing it so that it's something that's ingrained in the day to day?
Well, and the thing is too, you have to do it different ways because every
Mm,
officer listens differently. Some,
yeah.
some read, some are visual, and some you have to just hit them over the head. But you
Yep.
have to do it in all those different ways.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good quality of a leader to be able to say the same thing 100 different ways because we know that everyone's going to be different. And I think we can even look at different generations and what they care about, and how can we touch on, the different learning methods, but also the different generations and what's important to them at different times in their career. I talk about this a lot. In the space that I'm in, I really try to get everyone to kind of identify why wellness is important to them and understanding that that's going to evolve throughout your career. So, for example, as a younger officer or employee coming into the organization, your priorities and your why might look different now than they do when you're at the tail end of your career. Maybe right now you're just trying to learn the ropes, you're trying to prove yourself, you want to be the best version because maybe you have goals of advancement. And so the things that you do for your own wellness are going to maybe look different at that time versus someone who's maybe like button up on retirement and they're like, all right, like now my priority is retirement. Now I want to just be able to, run around with my grandkids. It's going to look different. And so how can we have that self-assessment too to understand why it's important for us at different times in our lives?
Yeah. So what's important as a leader is you can't be a one-trick pony. Now, I'm
Yep.
a old head. I started in 91. I have my beliefs. But one of the things that I work extremely hard on is being able to relate to the 21 to the 25-year-old. And then you have that group from 25 to 35. And then you have 35 to 45 years old. You have to understand how to relate to all of them, or you can't be a successful leader. If you only
Yeah.
talk about how you did it and how you were raised in 91 to 95, it's not going to work today.
How were you able to develop that mindset of having the ability to learn and adapt to everyone within the organization? Was there anything that you did specifically, or do you feel like that was something you always kind of had ingrained in you?
So it's something you said earlier, and I kind of smiled when you said it. It's about laying foundations down. And when you lay foundation down, you become a mentor. And if you become a true mentor and you're mentoring really a diverse crowd, from age to race to sex, you learn from them and it helps you become a better leader. So
Mm,
I do my very best to mentor as many as I can. And when I'm mentoring and giving advice, say on law enforcement and a career forward, they're teaching me how to relate to their age group. They're teaching
mm,
me how to relate to the sex or to the race, the culture. So I'm learning so much as I'm mentoring to be better for the department.
that's great. I've always said this that I think my biggest flex, I'll say, my biggest, I think, quality is the ability to continue to learn from everybody. And I think that if we can just do that, if we could just have an open mind of like, okay, I have something to learn from every single person that I come in contact with, it does help you to evolve and to think about things maybe a little bit differently. Because I do think you're right. Like we have our own mindset that we, develop over time. There's things that you learned early in your career that are maybe different now, but having the ability to have that open mind and to consider other ways of thinking of things or other ways of doing things helps everyone to move forward. And it goes back to that team mentality of like, how can we elevate the team?
Yeah. Look, if you're not willing to continue to learn, you can't be a top leader because
Mm,
you're going to miss so many people that's going to be like, ah, yeah, why follow him?
yeah. What do you think is the best quality or the most important quality as a leader? Is it that?
That's part of it, but empowerment is my favorite word. One of the things that I believe in that I've really worked hard on in my career as a leader is empowerment. And sometimes you have other leaders that will look and say, oh, why is he doing that? Or why he's not talking, why he's not at this meeting? Well, it's that word empowerment that gets the whole agency working better. When
Mm,
you give those who are behind you the ability to succeed, you give them the ability to lead and let their voice be heard, it's way better for the whole department, better for the city, better for the community. And I love to say it's not about me. I'm already the chief. What can I do for those who are behind me to get them to lead better and to give them that empowerment? And I feel like it works.
I love that. You had shared four words with me actually when we, kind of talked offline, and I want to kind of outline those. And if you're willing to, you've already touched on a couple, but if you're willing to kind of break these down, I think that would be really valuable for everyone who's listening. But you said leadership, empowerment, inspiration, and motivation. Can you break down each one and explain why those are maybe the four words that you, kind of model things after and why they're important?
Yeah. So we just talked about empowerment.
Yeah.
You have to empower. If you're a leader and you don't empower, you're missing the mark. Because if you're only going to tell everyone what they have to do and then they run back and tell everybody what they have to do, it's not going to be a happy workforce.
Mm,
You're going to miss the mark. If like all the way down to my patrol officers, I give them the opportunity to voice their opinion to me, and I do that. I have a chief advisory committee board, where we select, the peers select officers to be on this board, and then they get to sit down with me once a month, give me everything that they want to give me. They give me a lot. And then we figure out how to make the department better, but I'm giving them a voice. So it goes all the way up. So it's that empowerment that goes all the way down to the patrol officer that gets to come all the way up to the chief. So the empowerment's so important. Um, Motivation. Look, everybody's motivated by something different. And you have to, as a leader, be able to figure out what can I do to touch this person to get the very most, the best out of them. And every person's different. You have to be able to recognize that as a leader, how to motivate to make the city, the department better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Inspiration. Hey, some people just need a pat on the back. Sometimes you just need to say, hey, let's go get it. Let's get out there. Let's do the very best that we can be. And inspiration will bring the very best out of people.
Yeah.
And look, when it comes to leadership, you have to take all of those keywords and put them all together, and that makes a leader.
Yeah, thank you. When you're talking, I'm thinking about how this relates to morale and wellness. And really, the word that popped up for me is value. When you are investing your time as a leader, as an organization to empower people, to inspire people, to motivate people, they feel as an individual that they are valued for the work that they do within the organization. And I think that having that sense of value elevates everyone, but it also relates to wellness. No one wants to walk into a workplace where they feel like they're not seen or supported or valued. And so by ingraining these things into people, into, spreading the message as a leader that we value you, I would imagine that that also helps to build that foundation and elevate the team as a whole.
I totally agree with you 100%. And it's clear when people feel like they can speak, they can be heard, and they can make a difference even from the patrol officer level. It shows. It shows in the productivity.
Yeah, 100%. I was hoping that you could talk a little bit, obviously we know that you have a wellness team, you have a lot of wellness offerings and things that you do. But one of the things that stuck out to me when you talked to me was this idea of being proactive versus reactive. And you said this about wellness, but also your efforts within the community. So can you maybe give some examples of some of the proactive measures that you're taking and what has been the outcome of those efforts, whether that's organizationally or within the community you serve?
Okay, so let's talk about wellness first because
Okay.
wellness is so important to me.
Yeah.
It really is. We're being very proactive in the sense of we have like a peer program where we're identifying different officers at each station, each section, where they can come in and they have a straight relationship with the wellness unit, with the counselors. So they're looking at officers, they're talking to officers, and a lot of times officers, especially they want to talk to someone that they know that they feel comfortable with. So say you have a wellness unit just at headquarters, there's a lot of officers that will never ever pick up the phone to call the wellness unit. However, if it's someone at their station that they can at least talk to and just unload a little bit and say, hey, I've been thinking about this or this thought's been on my mind. So then that peer person can contact the wellness unit and say, hey, we might need to look at this officer, or we might need to send him some messaging, or we might need to offer him counseling. And it works. So when you have this peer system, it works because officers feel a little bit more comfortable asking someone that they know for help or that they need help. So that's one of the things in the wellness where we're being proactive. We're going out there and we have these peers that are at the stations and they're just having conversations and that the other officers know that they can bring problems to them.
Yeah.
So that's on the wellness side. When it comes to the community, I'm present. I make sure the command staff is present. We have to be in the community. We have to be engaged. We go to all town hall meetings as a team. Oftentimes, there's several of us at every single town hall meeting that they're having from our council members, and we have 15 of them in Dallas. So there's meetings going on all the time. But we make sure the police department is there, so all of the citizens can sit there and tell us their concerns, tell us their needs. Um, Tell us what they feel can make them feel safer. And that goes a long way. And then when it comes to enforcement wise, a lot of police departments, we just sit back and we take phone calls and we go out there and we answer them. And that's part of our job. But one of the things that we do here is we are proactively arresting bad people. We look for those fugitives every single day. We work with the U.S. Marshals every single day, trying to take everybody off that has a felony in the streets of Dallas. And it's important because if we go out and get those that have felonies, they can't commit any more crimes. The
Mm,
statistics show those who have committed multiple crimes in the past are more likely to commit crimes than someone who has never committed a crime.
sure.
So it's our job to be very proactive and go after those individuals and get them off the street. Not just sit back and say, well, if we encounter them on a traffic stop, we'll take them to jail. No, every single day we have units out there on the street looking for these individuals. And it goes to the narcotics unit, the gangs unit. Everything is very proactive.
Yeah.
It's not just sit back, get a tip, get a call. No, we're going out every day. And if you're doing bad things, if you're committing felonies, we're going to put you in jail.
What I find is really interesting is that we can look at both sides of things, right? You can look at what's going on in the community, you can look at what's going on organizationally, and you can make really educated predictions. Like we know that certain things are going to happen, right? We know that, like you said, if someone commits a crime, they're more likely to commit a crime again. You know that that is a possibility, maybe even a probability. In wellness, we know that if you don't deal with certain things and you don't offload certain things could happen. Or if you don't take care of your physical health, certain things could happen. And so I think that it's really interesting that we still sometimes wait as humans. I'm not saying you or me, but as humans, maybe in human nature, we kind of wait for there to be a problem until we address a problem when we know that these problems are likely to happen. So, how can we get in front of those things to reduce the risk of those things happening in the future? And that's where the proactive measures come in. So, I really appreciate that approach. And I 100% agree with that approach of, we're always going to have proactive and reactive measures. There's always going to be things that we have to do, from a reactive standpoint. But how can we reduce that as much as possible through boots on the ground effort of, trying to get in front of those things. I also think, and I love your opinion on this, it sounds to me that the efforts that you're making proactively within the community also impacts wellness of the officers, and it's a partnership. So the more community support and engagement, then the more positivity within the community. And then that impacts the officer wellness. And then when officers are happy, then they have a better, work product within the community. And that's this kind of like partnership that happens. Are you seeing anything like that happen as well?
Yeah, so one of the things here in Dallas, we will never do away with our NPO officers, the
Mm,
neighborhood patrol officers. We're a major city, and there's a lot of cities that are doing away with that. This is one thing that helps us be better in the community, and it builds a better relationship
yeah.
in the community. There's oftentimes in Dallas, you'll have an officer going to eat lunch, and somebody pays his bill, and they have no clue who paid the bill. It's because we have a relationship with the community. And
Yeah.
one thing I will say about Dallas, and this will roll over to the recruiting part, the thing that helps us in recruiting in Dallas, you can come to Dallas and be the real police because everyone in Dallas wants to be safe. And I don't care what neighborhood I go in for these town hall meetings, everyone says the same thing. Chief, we want to be safe. Do whatever you need to do to help us be safe. And in Dallas, they're begging us to write more tickets. They're like literally begging, can you please write more tickets? Because it's going to help us overall be safe. And we started writing way more tickets. And we had 45 less deaths last year
Wow.
in vehicle accidents than we did. And that really came from the community saying, Chief, can you write more tickets? And that you have to see it works. You started writing more tickets, 45 less people died. So that was 45 less families that grieve from vehicle accidents last year in Dallas. So where it helps in recruiting, it's one of the things that we can tell everyone. If you want to do real police work, come to Dallas because you have a community that wants to be safe. They want you to do police work.
Yeah. I think it goes back to that word we said earlier of value. Now your agency, everyone who works within your organization feels like they're valued by the community. And then the community also feels like they're valued and supported by you guys. And
Right.
so now it's that partnership that leads to wellness and elevation of both the community and the organization.
Right. And it shows because we just recently had our second largest class in the history of the Dallas Police Department. So when you talk about so many people not wanting to come to law enforcement now, we just put our second largest class in the history of the Dallas Police Department through the academy. And it also had the second largest amount of women in that class.
Mhm.
So I'm extremely proud of that. When so many departments are struggling to hire right now, we're not. And then we followed that up with another class of 60 and then another class of 50 something. And
Yeah.
we're looking at another class to start here that's going to have over 60 recruits in it.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you that, like, what's the secret sauce? Do you think that your wellness program and the efforts that you're making organizationally to kind of build that culture of care is also something that's contributing to your recruitment efforts?
So it's one of the first things that we talk about when we're out recruiting. We talk about our wellness and we talk about how we care and we take care of each other. I had a family night last night with the new recruit class, and the first thing I started off with was about our wellness program. And I told all the parents, the wives, the sisters, the brothers, the kids that were there, our wellness program is second to none. And we're going to do our part mentally to make sure that your loved one who's becoming a police officer is taken care of. And we're also going to take care of them physically and tactically through this academy to get
Yeah.
them ready to go on the streets.
I think my question for you, because I had another agency that I work with that did something very similar. They were at a job fair and they're like, we're not going to lean on like all of the, excuse me, bells and whistles and all the technology, which we have, and advancement opportunities, which we have. They're like, but we're going to lead with wellness. And they had a line out the door and everyone else was kind of struggling. And my question for you is, if we can have these conversations and we know that wellness is so important and that it not only produces an ROI of your people being better and thriving. But it also helps with recruitment, retention, the quality of product that you put out in the community. Do you think, across the country, wellness is the last thing to be funded and the first thing to be cut?
Yeah, because I think a lot of we just have this old school mentality. Hey, just put a band-aid on it and get back out there and fight.
Yeah.
Look, that bucket's going to eventually overflow. And when the bucket overflows, bad things happen either in the community or to the officer themselves. And I challenge everyone that's in a leadership position as a chief of police to focus on wellness because it will make you succeed as a chief. It's going to be better for the department. It's going to be better for the citizens and the community.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a lot of listeners on this podcast who are leaders and maybe don't have the support or maybe don't feel like they have the funding to be able to do some of these things. If you could give advice to anyone who's listening who is trying to build out a wellness program from like square one, or maybe they have a couple things like a peer support, but they don't really have anything other than that. What advice would you give to them on kind of the tactical steps of like how to build a program, how to get that support?
Look, a lot of it's public funding, community. The community supports our ATO program, which is a sister officer program. We built the foundation and the community supports it. And I talk about it in the community, and it's for counseling for officers. And we have funding that comes in. We're starting um, a couple different boards for that organization, and the funding is pouring in for our officers in the wellness because the community gets it.
Mm,
If you have an officer that's happy, you have an officer that the mind is clear, the mind is right, they're going to do a better job in the community. They're going to do a better job. And no matter what people say, there's so many people in the community that support the blue. And they just need to have an avenue and understand and know the avenue. And that's what our ATO program is doing, allowing them the avenue to give back to the department on the wellness side. And I think there's a lot of people that's willing to donate money on the wellness side. When they say, wait a minute, I'm donating money for an officer that has to go to counseling, and they're doing it, and it's showing right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My final question for you is for the younger generation. I know we talked a little bit about this, being able to mentor the younger men and women who are coming into this career today. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known if you could, turn back time and speak to your younger self, or something that's helped you along the way.
Well, someone told me right when I graduated the academy, they said the first 2 years of your law enforcement career are the most important. And I was like, all right, tell me why. That no matter what you do after the first 2 years, that's going to be your reputation. And I was like, well, what do you mean? It said, if you come out and you work your butt off, you learn, you listen, you take everything in, and then you put that out to make yourself who you are in the first 2 years, you go out there, you answer calls, you work really hard, you arrest people, you try to learn, you're there for others. That's going to be your reputation for the rest of your life. It's like, hmm.
Mm,
And man, he was so right. Because now, and you see other people, if someone comes out and they're not aggressive and they're not trying to learn or trying to work in their first 2 years, they can never change that label. Even if they decide year 5, hey, I'm going to be a better officer. Everyone's always going to say that officer's not that good. And if you come out, now the reverse is if you come out and you work really good, really hard, those first 2 years, it's going to take everybody about another 5, 6, 7 years to realize, hey, he doesn't work any longer. You're
mm.
going to still carry that reputation. So the first 2 years are so important as an officer. If you go out there, you're going to build who you are as an officer, and that's going to follow you for a very long time.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Did I miss anything? I'll kind of let you take the floor if there's anything else that you want to say or anything that I missed.
Anything? No, hey, I guess my last pitch is we're hiring at Dallas. Hey, we're Dallas and we're hiring. Great opportunities, great place to live. Cost of living is very, very reasonable for police officers, and you'd be coming to a city that wants to be police.
Thank you. Chief
Thank you.
Comeaux, it was a pleasure. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
I truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Of course.